everyone.
Good afternoon and welcome everyone. I'm Rita Arrigo and I'm from the National AI Centre, and I'm super excited about being asked to host this conversation. Was he an animal if music moved him so? Art, film and emotion in the age of AI. So today we're going to really talk about the boundary between human and machine being thoroughly blurred, where AI is not just a tool, it's a collaborator, a co-author. And artists and filmmakers today are redefining the creative process, showing us that AI isn't replacing emotion, it's reprogramming how we experience it. So I've got four amazing, extraordinary voices who are reframing storytelling with AI. Hilary Campilan, who is the director and editor and AI filmmaker known for her pioneering use of generative storytelling. Got Chen, you're a Hollywood VFX artist and CEO of Aurora AI, bringing cinematic precision to machine imagination. Andrew Fost, who I got to see your work, he's a writer, art critic and AI filmmaker, and has been doing amazing things bringing AI to documentaries. And finally, the whole reason why we're here, Travis Rice is the curator of the OMNI AI Film Festival, and while many of these boundaries break, who's been really breaking the boundaries with their first audience. So, Travis, I'm wondering, should we start with a bit of a screening of the winner of last year's OMNI Film Festival?
We can.
Can I make a counter proposal?
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me okay? Is that, the counter proposal is that possibly we start with Hilary's, just because of the order of the playlist on the
Absolutely.
Oh, great. We'll go with Hilary's film, which is a music video. And yeah, we may join in the audience.
Thanks, Andrew. We may join in the audience for the short, I think it's 2 minutes. Yeah.
The last of the autumn leaves have fallen and will not be replaced, and our feelings like the landscape have changed. Fragile as we are, exposed to the elements, I can feel the wind, and it's pulling me away from us. Like all rivers flow to the sea, the earth will dissolve our story. So this is our requiem for the love we have shared when we lay to rest, with no resistance or defense, our memories made flesh, and we will not forget.
Wow. Hilary, that was amazing. Hilary, do you want to tell us a little bit about how you created that? I was actually really curious to know whether the singer was AI.
Yeah. So the singer is someone called Michaela Betts, and she lives in London. And obviously, due to geographical reasons, we couldn't film something with her. So I asked her to film herself in London, and that was the driving performance, and that is her likeness. That's what she looks like as well. The whole thing looks a little bit old now because AI animation has moved on. It always does.
In 1 year.
In a few months. But yeah, that's how it was made.
Amazing. And yeah, we were talking earlier, we see VFX effects and AI. Do you understand the difference between both these technologies?
I would hope so. That's all right. I'll just project. If you have problems hearing me, just let me know. Kirsty knows, so we make our living doing both. So yeah, so hopefully we know the difference. We've done a lot of VFX. VFX is traditionally done with computer graphics. And computer graphics has many pipeline steps, and they're very distinctive steps. You have to model and texture and rig and then light and layout and animate. Anyway, at the end of all that process, which is very laborious and also cost intensive, you get some final pixels on the screen that hopefully passes the uncanny valley test and makes it look realistic. And that could cost upwards, as you know, with Avatar, $1 billion to create. Traditional films, like a typical mid-range Hollywood film, will cost about $100 million, $80 million if you're really lucky. So that's CGI, that's VFX CGI, that's really expensive. AI can achieve similar effects, but it's not as controllable, it's not as directable yet, for about 1/1000th of the cost, if not even cheaper.
Wow.
Which is what's tremendous about it. It's a game changer because of that.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the most exciting. I mean, the ability to be able to create these ideas that would be previously so much more expensive. Travis, I think we experienced a lot of that in the film festival we just recently watched.
Absolutely. I think we got to see some pretty fantastic visions from around the world. I think we had films from, 60 different countries for this most recent film festival jury that we just ran. We just had the judging, was it a week ago? A week and a half?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Weekends ago.
And it's been a very hectic time since then. Yen and Rita are part of the jury panel that was earlier, 2 weeks ago. And we also had some very distinguished filmmakers, including George Miller, the legendary film director from Australia, and he joined the group for us to discuss all of these things. So we had really a good vision of what it looks like at this exact moment. So it's kind of a snapshot of what does AI filmmaking look like right now. Was it October? October 2025, because it's evolving very, very fast. And even since we had our call for entries close a few weeks ago, since that point, we've had some very, very incredible films that have been shown to us that would not have been possible a month ago.
Yeah, and I think that's so exciting for me from an AI perspective to see these creations come to life that couldn't have been previously brought to life. And Andrew, I think this is a good question for you. How have you found bringing documentaries to life that you previously would have not been able to, and tell us about what's been going on there?
I'm looking at a lot of the developments of AI and looking at the sorts of stuff people are making and posting on social media and so forth. I realise that there is still a number of very significant limitations in the way AI can tell stories in, I guess, what we would call traditional sense, using continuity editing and things like that, where you have two people talking to each other, and it's something so elementary is still kind of difficult. It's getting there, maybe 6 months, who knows, OMNI 1.5, it will be there because it's moving so fast. But what I realized was that montage style storytelling, it was just an open field. It was like, there's so much you can do, because documentary is essentially don't rely so much on continuity editing. You'll have people, talking to camera, you'll have a narrator, but then you have a montage of images, some connect, some don't. And I saw that there was this possibility to bring AI image generation and video generation into that language in a way that feels really natural. It doesn't have the limitations of trying to tell a Hollywood style story of talking heads. If you start to expand the definition of how you tell the story and start to think about the ways in which you can edit these things together, and how the sort of links of narrative come into the storytelling process using AI, then it's just like, this massive untapped potential.
It definitely felt like that watching the documentary category. It was just like, wow, this is going to make such an impact. What other areas did you think, Travis, that in terms of categories, did you find that?
You know, it's really interesting to me, and I have to say this, Andrew. The idea of making a documentary just seems so counterintuitive to me as far as AI, because it's like we can make anything, like literally like a visual of just crazy, like cats flying a plane, or like, you know, a pizza becoming sentient.
But does the world want that?
But does the world want it? It's a great
Yeah.
question.
Well, but one of the things that AI can do, which I find really intriguing, is that when you're using it in a sort of realist mode, I guess is the way I would describe what I've been doing, although the Marsman and Luminor is a bit different to that. But in the documentary that I also made called Memory Hole, I realized that there was this ability within that generation of almost realistic imagery to create this sense of the uncanny, which is just something that is so magical about what AI can do. It can get completely out of control, but if you kind of approach it carefully, it just adds this really interesting sense and edge to what you're watching. And the other thing too, I suppose, is that, you know, I made a video, you know, a year ago, and someone said, why didn't you just use stock footage? You know, it could have been that easy. And I thought, well, the thing about the simulation of reality is that you have this opportunity to tell stories in a different way. And Memory Hole is kind of structured around the idea that the images themselves are metaphorical. They're not literal. You know, in documentary, you get this thing like, here's this place, this is this person, this is the thing that happened. But if you look at the history of documentary, there's another strand of it where, you know, people like Errol Morris, for instance, use imagery in a really poetic way that just opens up the possibilities of using it. And when you start using AI in that context, it's just like, you know, so exciting.
I totally agree. I'm just gonna say, Memory Hole. We got to see it, and yeah, it's an incredible film. We're not going to be screening it today, but we will be showing later in this session. We'll be showing one of Andrew's other more recent films as well, The Masked Men of Luminor. Yeah.
But are we ready for the next movie? We're ready to go into the ribbon.
Representing Canada.
After everything she's been through, can you believe she made it this far?
She has an unbelievable story.
As she's wearing her signature red ribbon.
Her entire life has brought her to this very moment. Snowboarding.
Okay. Travis, tell us why the ribbon won last year.
So this, the ribbon won the OMNI 0.5 showcase. Really, the judges were kind of blown away by a number of films. We had almost 1,000 entries for that film festival, which is, we were expecting around 20. So it's a significant number, and we watched all of them, and the ribbon was a real standout that looked visually compelling. It told a story, and I think some of these stories, kind of like what Andrew was mentioning earlier, they're compelling because you kind of forget that this is an AI film, and you're watching it, and you're just, oh, this is a story, and I'm being told a story in the way the visual medium compels. And so this one really stood out. And after we did the judging, we reached out to the winners. Ryan is based in Toronto. We reached out to Ryan and set up a phone call with him, a video call, and we found out this was his first film that he'd directed, which I'm going to put that in quotes. This is the first film that he directed, but he is a professional video editor, which I think tells a lot about this
Now,
film.
all those characters were AI, weren't they? Yeah.
The sound was also incredibly good.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that he used an AI tool to create the sound, which again would have involved some editing to make it spot on, which I think it's short and tight and tells a story in those tools. And again, 6 months ago, those tools, just to reiterate, are progressing rapidly, and we're getting to see some new versions of those kinds of things happening.
I've actually got a question for Hillary, because we were talking about AI and ABC and stuff. What do you think of using AI actors in those kind of movies?
I'm probably a bit different to everyone on this panel. I don't like it. So, I don't know. I apart from this film that I put in earlier on, unless I've got permission, I'm not really into it, and I'd rather use AI in a sort of surreal, dreamlike kind of breaking physics sort of way. Like, I prefer to use it as
I think there's a lot of people who agree with you.
Yeah, and I actually kind of hate the push now towards reality. I think if you're gonna make something that's real and you're telling human stories, just film the actors. I think it's different if you're sort of talking towards a movie like Avatar or something, which is a CGI action-packed movie. That's fine. But if it's human stories,
or you're using images of humans that might be painterly or they might be animated, then it kind of
that's absolutely fine in my, you know. And usually, I think we're probably pushing towards it with things like Runaway Act 2 and Margot, that you actually film a person and then that gets translated into cartoon or whatever using AI. But I think, generally speaking, I think when people get served, especially in the advertising industry, people talking, it just ends up being a bit AI slop, and you feel like there's a little bit of, you know,
apparently it's one of those things, because you can, should you, type stuff. It's one of those debates. And I recently read a paper where they had like all the things that people are okay with being replaced with AI. The actors were number one, where people are not okay with being replaced with AI. But it's interesting. It's very interesting. Jan, what's your opinion?
I'm going to play the devil's advocate and go, that's how we're going to end up, regardless if we want it or not, just because economy of scale. I mean, right now I'm on YouTube, and there are these like influencers, you can't even tell if they're AI or not. There's this beautiful girl flexing giant muscles, and they're like, surely that's AI, but then again, they are really buff influencers who look like that, and you can't tell. And being a filmmaker, we're going to get to the point where if you have somebody in Bangladesh who have a dream, who has a story, who has to tell, and they want to be able to tell that, but they don't have access to the camera crews and the production crews and all the things we would normally, actors, actresses especially, and they just want to dream something up, they can with AI. And right now, you're absolutely right, Hillary. It is slop. We can't tell, and the lip sync and the emotions behind it, the eye contact, the eye darts, they just don't look right yet. But 6 months from now, 12 months from now, or let's even say 24 months, 2 years from now, we're going to end up in a place where it's indistinguishable.
I think that's true, and I think it will have its place, but I don't think you're going to get the next Bob Dylan out of something that's AI, because people still connect to the people.
Real people.
Real people.
And I think there is going to be a distinction between synthetic content and, you know.
My thought is it will be hopefully just another genre, but people will still film as well. As CGI has never taken over human-related stories, right? It's just another genre.
Well, what about extras replacement? You know, like
Oh yeah, actors plays.
I can see that.
Background actors are disappearing, and
I'm also going to say that we're all above 40 in this panel, and I think our connection with technology and digital avatars are going to be very different than the younger generations. So you say that you will never get a Bob Dylan, you will never get a human-to-human connection between us and the AI. And I think the next generation, my kids, all of our kids collectively, will probably beg to differ. I agree with you. I could never connect to AI like that.
Well, like the same way they connect with cartoons.
Yeah, but probably even more deeper, the way they connect with their friends. There are more kids who chat with ChatGPT and consider ChatGPT as an actual informed friend than you will realize. And,
the AI ethicist in me panics. Because AI is not your friend. AI is a power tool.
Yeah, there's definitely many things sinister behind big corporations who are running and developing the AI. I'm with you there. But I think just being a futurist, looking at the next generation, looking at how they're used to all the digital interactions they're already using on a day-to-day basis, AI friend, AI relationship, or AI media personality is really not that far of a stretch for the next generation.
Travis, what are you thinking?
I think it's a great time for you to introduce the work that you're doing during the day, Rita. So yeah.
Okay. I do a lot of work with the Australian government around responsible AI, and thinking about the kind of transparency, the human connection, the bias, the range of different areas in which we think about AI. And I spend a lot of time talking to people about the fact that we've already had 2 deaths on ChatGPT, and do we really want that to happen again? So I think being able to have a relationship with AI that's not where you think they're human is probably a lot healthier. Anthropomorphizing AI is very dangerous for society. So that's part of the work that I do.
Fantastic. Can I just mention, I know that we've got some more films to watch, and I know you've got some great questions.
Let's watch one more.
Okay, which one is, do you remember which one
The
is
next one is The Fly.
Okay, great. I think this is another good example of really tight, really good editing. So, okay, here we go.
En ces temps sombres où l'espoir vacille comme la flamme d'une bougie dans la tempête, quand tout semble perdu, un héros devient la dernière lumière. On l'appelle Monsieur Mouche.
Stop. Je vous ai juste demandé de travailler sur le script de cette nouvelle franchise, et là, qu'est-ce que j'ai ? J'ai une grosse mouche.
Oui, il n'y avait plus d'autres animaux disponibles.
Oui, alors déjà, c'est pas un animal, c'est un insecte.
Animal, insecte, c'est pareil. Il n'y avait plus que ça.
Oui, bon, enfin, rendez-moi ça plus sexy quand même. Stop. Alors, excusez-moi, mais on peut faire mieux sur le look.
Ça marche.
Ouais, c'est mieux.
Donc je disais, Monsieur Mouche a le pouvoir de se transformer en mouche. Il est attiré par les emmerdes et nettoie la crasse de Fly City.
Fly City. On peut pas faire un film avec ça, hein ? Non, ce qui marcherait avec ce genre de concept à la rigueur, c'est une série.
Ouais, on pourrait faire une série à la David Fincher, ambiance film noir. Monsieur Mouche enquête sur tous les gangsters de Fly City. Il m'entoule le dealer, le tueur à gages, le hacker.
David Fincher, je connais pas, je veux pas faire du lyrique, je veux du grand spectacle.
Par exemple, on pourrait imaginer un poisson rouge géant qui vole et qui va détruire tout Fly City. Il semer un chaos pas possible et Monsieur Mouche sera le dernier espoir.
Oui, et ça va me coûter combien ça ? Non, moi je voyais plutôt un tournage à la Défense avec 2-3 effets.
On va tourner les scènes d'action et les monstres avec des maquettes. Il y a un dresseur de mouches qui fait des miracles. Vous savez, tout le dernier Star Wars a été tourné comme ça, hein ?
Le film dans les étoiles ?
Faites-moi confiance.
Ah bon ?
On a plein d'idées pour la franchise. On va produire plein de produits dérivés, des BD, des jouets, un parc d'attractions. On va vendre la licence dans le monde entier, un dessin animé, une version japonaise, une version indienne avec des centaines de danses.
Non, doucement les gars, là vous vous emballez là.
Je vous jure, Monsieur Mouche, ça va être un carton.
Attendez.
Dites-moi.
Et si on partait plutôt sur un asticot?
Oui, oui, oui. Coco l'astico.
All right. So, what did everyone think of The Fly?
It's interesting because, I mean, having that connection with the intercut of people and actual people, I think it tells a very different story. And that dialogue, you know, because we are trained by nature to connect with people.
What do you think?
Hillary.
Hillary.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought that was really funny, and it shows often when I was watching all the films when I went to the screening, I really, you know, it was definitely the idea shines through in mine because you can make anything you want. So it's all about having a good idea. That was rather fun.
What about you, Robert? Andrew.
Robert Frost.
I know there's a famous Robert Frost.
There is.
Yes.
Look, from a filmmaking perspective, I think it's a really interesting demonstration of what's possible in a more traditional storytelling style. That, like, all of the performance is human, all of the kind of everything else is AI, works incredibly well. And you can see how that could be, that process or that approach could be applied to other stories. Even, you know, lengthier things where you're using AI to bridge the gap between the performances in terms of settings and backgrounds and all of that kind of stuff.
What about you, Jan? What do you like about it?
Just looking at the lack of dollar signs. I mean, if we had to do that traditionally, the dollar amounts would just be through the roof. Even to do a short 1 minute piece like that, it would be millions of dollars. So yeah, the fact that one person sitting, or two people sitting in front of the camera and one person behind a computer can do all of that, it's just incredible. Just absolutely incredible. And I think that's just really foreshadowing what's going to come and what's going to hit Hollywood like a storm.
Well, I love the way you talk about foreshadowing what's going to come, because 0.5 is what we just watched, right? No.
Yeah, we just watched those.
They've got the movie's already quite different, and do you think we should roll for that? And we'll talk about the other movie from 0.5, which I believe is.
I'm not sure which ones are. I think we've finished the 0.5
Yeah,
film.
it's Roped.
Okay.
Very scary, and very different look.
Yes.
And then we can keep talking about how that was created and all that kind of stuff.
Perfect. So Roped is a preview for the upcoming exhibition of OMNI 1.0, which is happening November 6th. We just put tickets on sale for it today. So Roped is one of many that will be screened for OMNI 1.0. Ready?
Let's do it.
Turn the volume up a little bit more.
That was amazing. That's another genre that I think is incredible with AI, which is horror. And tell me, was that? Did you think that was AI generated, the character?
I think so. If you look carefully, there are imperfections that I think the human eye is pretty attuned to, but you get lost in it very quickly. You get lost in the story, you forget about it, that it is AI generated. You're like, you know what, I don't care. Like, what's going to happen to her is with, and the ending is pretty haunting, and that's what I remember from it, is how it ends rather than how it was created. So that to me just is a testimony to the quality of the films that we're seeing this version of OMNI 1.0, is that we get these finished products that are quite holistic. They're actually quite complete in their own rights. Yeah, which is really interesting.
Can I ask you a question? The directors of Hollywood these days, are they interested in completely AI characters where you are sort of prompting every single move that an AI character does and it's no actor involved at all? Or are they interested in having actors as a video-to-video sort of model?
So the directors really don't care. They just want to get their stories told. Like the pure directors, we're talking about the pure artists. There are many commercial directors out there who are like, well, let's just do the most expedient thing and do the right thing. But the majority of the creative directors, they just want their stories told. And the ones who doesn't care if there is a AAA celebrity attached to it or not, they don't mind if the actor is purely AI, as long as it has that ability to emote, as long as it has the ability to act and have the personality, and looks good, and looks right on screen. And to be 100% fair, I don't think the directors think AI is at that level yet. And I would agree, it's not at that level yet. So they are looking at background replacement, background characters, using it for previs. Studios are looking at it in ways how to cut costs, the film production costs, as much as possible, without relying on it to replace the humans, because it's not ready yet. Yeah. And
I think that's exciting because there's so many stories that need to be told that don't necessarily have $1 million or $200 million or $100,000 million.
Exactly.
But Travis, Andrew, did you want to add anything further with regards to that scary roped movie?
Again, I just think it's an incredible demonstration of what's possible within a specific genre. Because you notice, like, there was some continuity moments in it, but it was mainly a montage, and I think that really worked in its favour. Of course, knowing that it's AI, I'm looking for the AI things in it, and there were a few telltale little moments with the movement of the feed and the water and stuff like that. But as you said, you just kind of get lost in the story, and I think in terms of its applicability into the wider industry, if you're looking at, like bargain basement budget, horror, sci-fi, things like that, this is a way forward to achieve those kinds of effects and moments in film.
Tell those really scary stories. Now, I'm really excited about the next movie, The Masked Man of Lamora. We finally get to see a documentary. So will we roll it?
Yeah, let's watch it.
Limonora, the jewel of the Southern Ocean. The island is the largest landmass of the Yan group. From its idyllic coastal villages and towns, to the high mountain ranges, to the forbidding expanse of the Clark Waste. The island is a place of often startling contrasts. On the island, an ancient custom once ruled the lives of its men. A breach of duty, failing to father a son, neglecting to pay debts, or offending sacred traditions, meant exile. For months, sometimes years, these men vanished from society, their identities hidden behind haunting masks. During their banishment, these men were marked by their attire: black suits, white shirts, and black ties. The masks they wore told stories, crude, exaggerated likenesses of their faces, some comical, but most tinged with tragedy. They made best as they could, living on food donated by their families and sympathetic strangers, doomed to wander until the day their exile ended. A period determined by local priests. The exact origins of the tradition remain obscure, but anthropologists believe the masked men were a reenactment of folk tales that told ancient stories of men banished from their homes, condemned to wander amongst the remaining remnant forests of the island's once great arboreal expanses. This tradition, both penance and punishment, served to separate the transgressor from the community, yet allowed a path for eventual reintegration. After the revolution, however, the practice was outlawed by the People's Council, condemned as archaic and divisive. Though the masked men have now disappeared from public view, their legacy endures. In distant villages, offerings of food and drink are left by roadsides, by the few old men who remember. And in the town of Léonie, private clubs now honor this forbidden tradition. Descendants of the banished keep the memory alive, blending history with modern identity. The masks of Limonora are more than relics of a bygone era. They are symbols of redemption, resilience, and the fragile ties between tradition and change.
It's a real video. No, it's a pseudo documentary, which is a pretty widely acknowledged subgenre of documentary making. What can I tell you about it?
First of all, how did you make it?
I was just toying around with making masked men imagery, I don't know why, and then I started to think, well, maybe there's a world that these guys could live in, and why are they wearing masks? Limonora is a world that I created for a previous video called The Mysteries of the Inky Rocks, and I felt like there's more story there, there's more things to place into that world, and using the language of documentary, I wanted to make an old style kind of 40s, 50s kind of vibe to it. So I did some research on YouTube and found a documentary from 1947 on the making of how turpentine is made. And I cloned the voice, the narrator's voice, from that documentary to get the period feel. I wrote the narration. The music is generated by a platform called Audio, which is an audio kind of creation thing, and went through many iterations to get the right kind of feel for the guitar and all that sort of stuff. It was made it was made this year, but it was I didn't know at the time, but it was just as the technology was about to leap forward. Just after OMNI, it was like, bam, all of this stuff came along. But I think it still works in the context of the style and the feel that I was after.
Were any of the cities real?
No.
No, it's
an entirely made up world. It's like a parallel world of conflicts. My next project is I wanted to make a longer piece, sort of aimed for sort of half an hour kind of length, which is a history, or like a documentary about an artist from another country who wanted to build a monumental earthwork in the middle of the island, and creates all of this chaos trying to do so.
Can
Yeah.
I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What's the language that you've used on the background? The typo, the font?
Yeah,
Iranian.
ChatGPT helped me create a Limanoran language, and it's a combination of Czech and Portuguese.
Right.
I kind of wanted to have some spoken Limanoran in it, but it just didn't fit in. So there's slogans and stuff about fuck the mainland is something that's on there, about its relationship to this other place, which is like a colonial power that has had all this influence over the island, and there's all this pushback, and the revolution that's mentioned is kind of the center of the story for the next film. But I put in the graffiti, and most of it's related to the masked men. The poster that you see with the big face says "Masked men, stop this madness," and things like that. So I just really got into the
I
detail.
like it. To me, it's like our own Star Wars, but like in the 40s.
It's like Cuban Tolkien.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it kind of wanted to tell a story about kind of colonialism, but do it through the prism or focus of fiction, so that the dynamic of the story kind of wasn't burdened with real world relationships, but still had real world relevance because of that idea of
Get a different sense of empathy of the fact that, you know, like these traditions were so archaic and weird, but they still happened back then type stuff, and you kind of relate that to colonialism.
And I think that something that my wife is sick of me saying, which is diversity starts at home. I felt like if I was virtually casting the people in this thing, that they weren't going to be white Europeans, that it was going to be a world that's somehow recognizable as the diversity of reality rather than just a made up world of mine, and try and build that detail into it.
Amazing.
You know what really worked for me in this one? You know how kids nowadays, Gen Z and younger, had this 80s nostalgia, even though they were never born in the 80s? Like for me, I had like 40s and 50s nostalgia, even though we were never born during that period. You still had that nostalgia, and that really spoke to me. That felt like, oh, that's American. I'm not sure if you saw the same thing, Travis. I saw Puerto Rico in there, I saw Cuba in there, I saw like so many elements of home, what we consider to be closer to home for us.
Definitely, whenever you see something and hear it in that voice, you know, the powers of turpentine voice. You hear authenticity and fact. You hear like this is something I can base my reality on. So I think that's interesting. I'm gonna also ask, and I think Hillary's got a question. Let me just ask real quick. As audiences, are these stories compelling? Because I think the question that I want to know is, do people want to watch stories like that? I mean, if you know it's an AI film,
we need new narratives to help explain how complex our worlds were, and like that is a brand new way of looking at something. Yeah, what did you think?
I was going to talk about the diversity angle of that, because at ABC, that's a very important thing for us. And something to note, I guess, is that even though AI tools are democratizing creativity, anyone can use them, which is great, and it's cheaper, and that's great. But on the other hand, for people that don't have tech literacy, you know, the ability to pay for a lot of these user interfaces, then you're not necessarily getting diversity, you know, people from outside of Western cultures necessarily using it yet. And you've got to be careful, I guess, cultural appropriation a little bit as well. You know, whose voices are. You know.
It's really interesting because one of the films, I mean, am I jumping the gun on this, Travis? But one of the films that I really gravitated towards OMNI 1.0 was a documentary about South American artists created by a South Korean using Western AI.
It was
platforms.
incredible.
It was. I'm not going to name it. I don't want to spoil it, but that was incredible. That was incredible.
Absolutely incredible, yeah. And it wasn't hyper realistic. It was something else, and it was it was amazing to see that happen.
One of the things I just wanted to add, that one of the things about diversity is that a lot of complaints and critiques of AI are very much based in the fact that the training data tends to be very generic and homogeneous and really reflect back the kind of materials that are being used to train the AI. I remember seeing a thing online where a guy was complaining that if he typed in, 2 gay guys, it was like 2 white guys with beards. and the point being is like, that's the tag on the imagery. And then, but as a user, you have the chance to feed back into the process what you want to see. Like the diversity that what you want to see kind of gets taken up as it retrains and starts to respond with more choices and more things that you can include.
That's really the key right there, is user training. And I think a lot of the large corporations are realizing, as they try to sell the LLMs to enterprises and they're getting some pushback, they're realizing the enterprises, the end users, want the ability to personalize and train. So RAG models, SLMs, or small language models are becoming more and more of a thing, so that as an end user you can feed in your own scripts, your own videos, and your own things you have IP rights to, hopefully, and so there are no more legal debates. And then you can customize it that way and achieve that diversity, achieve that range that you're looking
I think
for.
that's so important to achieve that range and that kind of individual aspect, because I mean what we see a lot of in these kinds of tools, and I'm sure you guys have all used them, you get a lot of averages. And you have tons of averages, or like, what a biased average could be. And that's what when we're being creatives, we want to make something that's on the edge and it's not part of the average story. So I think that's compelling. Another thing I wanted to ask about, Andrew, you were saying that you were going to make a longer version. Just a quick note, for the OMNI Film Festival, we've had several feature-length films submitted, like feature-length AI films. Some that are 2 hours. We had one screened as part of the Dark Nights Film Festival on Sunday here in Sydney. That was an hour and 20 minutes horror film, which is terrifying. And I mean, it's really messy AI, but it's still a scary story. And we've had one film that was submitted that was 4 hours.
How do you think, have you asked people what tools they're using? Because are they paying to make this stuff? Because subscriptions can be very expensive. Some people are creative partner programs and you get it for free, and some people will use open source software, but like to make that amount would cost a lot if you didn't have those things.
It would, and for those of you guys who are not AI filmmakers in the audience, in order to make one of these films, you have to iterate and iterate and iterate. And so the OMNI 1.0, the name of the exhibition, is actually called Iterations, because each time you make a film clip, it's not right. And so you have to keep trying to get it closer and closer to right. So a lot of times, and I don't know, Hillary and Andrew, whenever you guys make your films, you're probably making 2 to 3 times as much video as you're actually editing it down to. And so I think that that's an important part of it. I think these guys are oftentimes creative partners.
I have I think a ratio of 10 to 1. I just kind of obsessively go over it and over it and over it until it's as close or perfect as possible. There is a great temptation, I think, to go, yeah, that's okay, that'll do. And it would be cheaper and faster to do that, but I just feel for my own stuff that I've just got to keep going until I get it, as close to exactly perfect as I possibly can, because, this film, Marsman and Liminora is like 6 months old now, probably. And like the technology has come ahead so fast, and this kind of project would look completely different, I think. But regardless of like the cost or the time or the shooting ratio of used to unused material, I think, as we were discussing before, it's the story. The story's got to be there to compel you to keep watching. And like you said, like an hour and 20-minute film, the horror film, its only job is to be scary, isn't it? I mean, you can forgive some shoddy CGI or some dodgy AI here and there, but if the story's not there, it's like,
It's terrifying. It's terrifying.
Is it like an uncanny style horror? Or
it was a film called Necromorphosis, and it is a journey of a scientist looking for a cure to a particular disease and going into the city sewer, and like kind of Apocalypse Now, going on a journey of horrific discovery.
Wow.
If you get a chance to watch it, I would recommend you do not. It is terrifying.
But I think what I really loved about The Masked Man and Lenora, it is these new narratives that if you had, you just couldn't imagine without AI. You wouldn't be able to like tell that story, I suppose, effectively.
I mean, that a zero budget project, really. I mean, everything in it is AI derived in one way or another. And, you know, even if I was like to try and make it with library footage or something, it just would not have the same flavour. Because it does, I think, in its slight jankiness in movement and things like that, it has this sense of unreality which really brings something interesting to it.
I think there's a lot of creative appetite, especially if you look on social right now, for different forms of linear storytelling. I mean, Hollywood has been on this 90-minute movies or episodic linear series for such a long time, for about 120 years now. And social media is proving that there are many other ways to tell a story that's still engaging, that's still compelling, that draws an audience. So I think there's huge potential for things like Masked Man and Lenora to start a cult following, start a small niche group of people watchers, and start growing, ballooning from that point on, which is what empowers the AI tools.
The Liminorans.
Hilary, I know that we've now seen the newer ones, and we saw what's your next journey?
Next I'm going to be making something that's most likely going to be a mix of like a hybrid, real dancers dancing and AI elements collaged together, because it's for a really big screen that's 13,000 pixels wide and needs to be sort of pixel perfect. So, you know, I guess I like using AI in a way, not necessarily in a narrative way, which I think this is all about, but in a sort of artistic way, and just see where I can.
Yeah, you felt that when you saw the way you generated those blooms and flowers.
That's actually really not typical of most of the things I make. Like mostly I'm making things that sort of try to bend physics and monsters that you wouldn't have expected. That was more the style that Michaela wanted. So I also sort of come from kind of a commercial background, so that's a client project in a way, I guess.
We've got only a few minutes left. We watched the last one, which I think is a music video, and it's called Stop Hidden.
I think it's Stop Hiding.
Stop Hiding.
Yeah.
Stop hiding you.
All right.
Stop Hiding.
This one is from the music video category of the OMNI 1.0. Yeah.
Freshest in the place, running laps with my vibe and you can't keep the pace. Head to toe while I'm dripping in style, I'm fly with $1 million smile. Cannot beat me, never could you see me. When you this fresh, everybody wanna greet me. Check the clock, now I check my wrist. Ice so bright, the whole room stay lit. I know you wanna match my style. You haven't seen someone like me in a while. It looks easy, I make it look easy. Born to be fly, know you really believe me. I leave the room, energy remains. I'm the flyest. With all these chains, swag, my swag, here I go. I'm so fresh all around the globe. There ain't no other that can take my role. I'm so hot, but the style so cold. In every room, you know that I reign. Eyes on me, can't deny the fame. Now watch the kicks, don't step on my shoes. Outfit changing for every mood. Don't hate what you see, I'll bring it to the game. So sad, you can never drive in my lane. This is what it looks to be the flyest. Style so big, you know I'm never quiet.
It was amazing.
I got a new wardrobe to buy.
Very stylish.
Yeah, it was amazing. And where did that come from?
That one's from South Korea.
South Korea.
I actually, by pure chance, happened to see another piece by this person this morning on Instagram, which was stylistically very, very similar, and it was about reggae music.
You'll have to forward it to me.
I will. Yeah, okay.
Well, I think we have to be finished by 2.
I believe so.
Yeah. I mean, we're so close to 2, but should we see if there's an audience question?
Sure.
Thoughts, questions?
Last question. Well, this is kind of a question, but also kind of an observation. I've been putting out lots of posts and whatever about AI and where it's all going. And I've got, the only feedback, the proper feedback I've had from people has been really negative, right? As in, like, we're talking people that I've been friends with for 30 years, who always, when I say, how I'm at the pub, they go, oh, we're there, you know, going like, I said, oh, AI is coming, and they're like, it sucks, man. They're totally just like, this is the worst thing ever, I don't want to see it, it's fucked. And then people reply and go like, yeah, man, I don't want to see any more of this crap. And like, you wouldn't believe the reactions you get, like, to this new phenomenon, which from people who've always, in my entire life, never said anything negative about anything. Coming in like
I can
this,
tell
like,
you, as Australians, we are very, very scared of AI.
well, yeah, but
we're more scared than curious.
But it's kind of like almost like, what's that? Where's that coming from? You know what I
But
mean?
Johnny, you're in the industry, so that you have to take that with a grain of salt. The people you surround yourself with are probably in the creative industry.
Yeah, right.
Whose livelihood and jobs are directly being threatened by AI.
Yeah.
So that has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
Kirsten, you probably can answer
Question
that.
today.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah, I was actually also wondering, do you have any thoughts, or can you say something? What do you think is happening in the future? What does this rapid development mean for the future for Hollywood? Do we have more content, more films coming out, or films are getting produced faster, but then there's a huge amount of job loss as well that I see? So yeah, I belong to these a bit skeptical people out there.
I think that's really a great question. I think we're all asking the same question as well, which is, I mean, I think Jan will have some thoughts on this, but I think for myself, the question is, do I value looking at these things differently? And so, like, if I go to the cinema, which this happens to be the cinema I go to, so I'm often sitting in this cinema watching normal films. And so the stories that we come and we pay a ticket, and we come and so we sit here for 2 hours and watch a movie. Oftentimes those are good stories. Sometimes they're really boring stories. That's fine. But we're giving attention and we're giving time. And the question, I think, is, do we culturally want to give the same time to something that is computer generated or completely authored by our data set reflecting back at us? So I think there's cultural questions that I'm really curious about, and that's one of the reasons we're doing the film festival, is to kind of ask those questions.
Also, in terms of, sorry if I add something, also in terms of filmmaking for me is a process where a lot of people come together, whereas like this is really just one person. And I mean, auteur films maybe work similar, that there's one mind, there's one vision, and everyone, wants to, follows
Most
that.
directors will love that. They will love to get the entire crew out of there. Just go, this is my vision. Everybody get out of the way.
And it seems to be a few people involved, it's not just a solo.
No, but most of the time.
I think there's an ethical framework for working in AI, and part of that is supporting and advocating for compensation for people whose work has been used in a data set without their permission. I think once that's settled, and it's in the process of being settled now in various lawsuits around the world, I think once we're past that, I think the moral panic around AI is going to subside fairly quickly.
I'm not sure if that's the case, because I think that this idea of ethical models, whereas it's great and people will get compensated a little bit, it'll be like Spotify royalties. You're not going to get much because data sets.
Well, exactly. I mean, there's class action suits in train right now. The Anthropic payout of $1.6 billion kind of boils down to about $3,000 per author, split between the author and the publisher.
Yeah.
So it's not entirely equitable, but I mean, some compensation versus none. I mean, as an AI creator, I have to acknowledge that there are ethical issues around its creation. I have to acknowledge the impact on the environment, and water usage and energy and all of those things. But I don't think they're insurmountable problems. And I think that once they have been addressed in some way, then the negativity that you were talking about is going to drop away.
I think she was also talking about an activity of job loss, about people losing their livelihoods. And to be fair, Hollywood studios, the big five Hollywood studios, have been around for over 100 years. The same business model, the same publishing model has lived for 120 years. And just now in 2025, with Warner Brothers about being sold to Larry Ellison's son, who's Oracle descendant from a giant database company, Disney will be the last studio left in Hollywood that's still owned by creative industry. Every other Hollywood studio has been sold or has been in the process of being sold to a technology company.
Wow.
So that's the seismic shift we're talking about. Will people lose their jobs? Certainly, but there'll also be new jobs being created at the same time. So that you don't have to worry about. There'll be plenty of jobs.
But do people want to, if you've gone into the creative industry and you enjoy being on set, and that's why you went into it, you certainly didn't go into it for money, are you going to want to be a prompt engineer?
I think you want to be a small group of people. I think that communication, that tightness of a creative team is still necessary. Rather than a studio of 500 people, you have a small team of 4 to 5 people being able to create a similar product.
Theatre might just get bigger.
Krista had her hand up for a long time. Sorry.
Yeah, I got a couple of different questions. I need sort of comments from all the film, just watching the progression of the CG, and the first thing that I thought was like, oh, uncanny valley, and then you just watch that be eroded as the films come on, and also different sort of, I guess, cinematic ways of sort of overcoming that. But the other thing I wanted to comment on was the job losses, and I think earlier in the conversation you were saying, oh, that's great, it's going to be so much cheaper. It's like, cool, like it's gone from like $10 million to 1 cent. And that $10 million is people and jobs.
Yep.
But the way I see it is that we always have change. That's the human condition.
It is.
And digital printing was supposed to kill offset printing.
Yeah.
And it didn't. We still have offset printers, and you have digital printers, and you have all different kinds of jobs. And ebooks was supposed to kill paper books, and they didn't. We've still got ebooks. And that my daughter, who is 17, refuses to read ebooks. She loves paper books. And there's a whole book talk thing which is going on, so that didn't happen. So I think the predictions that AI will kill cinema are, in the words of Mark Twain, what are they? Predictions, reports of my death. Overrated. Thank you very much. I think they're overrated. I don't think AI will kill anything, and I think that it will evolve. And I think that jobs will definitely change, but jobs always change. It always changes.
I have friends who are unfortunately already kind of suffering from this, because this is why I'm conflicted about it, because in the advertising world, advertising is already crumbling due to social media, influencers, etc. AI comes along and advertising really only cares about money.
Yep.
So directors are getting less jobs and things like that. And I've been approached to sort of do some projects that I know that they're really just asking it for speed and cheapness, and I've sort of said no to it. But that is coming a little bit, and it's real and it's sad.
I've worked in a series of jobs over the last 40 years in industries that have crumbled behind me as digital disruption waved through. Publishing, I worked in the library. I like all of these things that are kind of things of the past now. And it's interesting when sometimes you have conversations with people about the concept of universal basic income, where the government just gives you money to live and you don't have to work. And often people say to me, oh, that would be awful, I'd hate that. And I just think, oh, that would be so good. I can just do my thing and get paid for it,
Yeah, just to build on that, so I'm creative and I'm also unemployed, so I feel like I'm in a comfortable group of friends.
You can talk
I think I just was in one of the other talks just before, and I think the theme of that talk was that we're using AI the wrong way. We're using AI as a way to cut costs and to do things faster and more efficiently. But the real opportunity, or the next stage, once we get through this cost-cutting stage, is through the innovation and the forward-looking and the creativity and the creating things that we don't know that don't exist yet, because you can do it with the support of the tools and things. So I think maybe,
like the masked men.
Yeah, maybe we have to go through the uncomfortable lack of funding and economic massacre that's happening now, to then come out the other side and then go towards the utopia.
That's already happening. I mean, you're talking about two things: how to use AI differently, and how to be creative about it. Absolutely, which is already happening on social. If you see the amount of AI-generated content on social, it's through the roof. But the other thing they're talking about, cost cuttings, that's always going to be there. And what's going to win is the things that are cheap and not yet have a social appetite. And unfortunately, that may not be the best social thing. That might not have the highest level of social benefit, but that is going to be the thing that wins, because you do have the cost element there constantly. So what we see on social media, unfortunately, is a seed for that. A lot of new posts, a lot of new commercials, a lot of clickbait, a lot of things that hopefully will have enough creative credence behind it to capture interest.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
When we see an ad or like a print ad or I've mostly seen print ads. I don't think I've seen any. Well, actually, I take that back. I've seen a few video ads that are AI generated. Like, I think that's the question. I mean, because as soon as you're like, boom, AI generated, does the value of that product go down or up in your eyes? And I think that right now we socially are answering that question. Because I mean, sometimes, and I'm just gonna not name a brand that's on a lot of buses around town, that is very visibly AI generated, and I can't look at it and not think that. But I know I'm not the only one that's thinking that, so I don't know how people perceive it and how it changes the value of that product.
We're gonna go with our wallet. We're gonna see what we win is what we buy.
I think some of it is seen as cheap, right? And so there'll be like this cheap kind of, scrappy thing that you can get if you don't have a budget. But then there'll also be this beautiful homemade, gorgeous stuff. But then there'll be stuff in the middle that's brand new, like what the kind of stuff that you're doing, Andrew.
I get really upset when, just as a personal thing, is like the term AI slop is applied to everything that AI is making or is made with AI. And I recognise that there is such a thing and it exists in the world and it is incredibly irritating and ugly generally. But like the idea of what we're doing here is like the idea of creating value, and I mean value in the sense of values like ethics, of creativity, of production that means something, that it is taking the tools as they exist right now and actually building a future out of that is creative, that it is about storytelling, that it is, as you propose for this, emotional, that it has an emotional component to it, that it is in a sense real. The other thing I want to add is just like, but that whole thing is within this vast sea of other stuff that AI is doing across a huge number of industries, and generative AI video is like this tiny sliver of 1% of all these things that are happening through a transformative technology. So everything that we're thinking about now, we're going to just have to adapt and kind of keep it on the run as we go.
Did you guys like the films, by the way? Kirsty, did you like it?
I thought they were amazing.
Yeah,
and the order was really good. I've got to go and meet someone. I'm really sorry, but it was fascinating. I would love to stay and enjoy the conversation.
And I think we're done.
Can I say one last thing? All right, so I've been a struggling filmmaker for 20 years, and you know why? Because every time I want to get some special effect done, I've got to go and talk to some community guy, blackmails me for $50, $100, $500, doesn't get it done, delivers it late, whatever. And I've been at the mercy of anyone who is post-production for that long. You know what? I'm doing it myself now.
Yeah!
Fuck you. That's why I said, man. Bring on AI.
What a wonderful way to close. Can we have a round of applause for our amazing panel?
Thanks for
Thank
coming.
you, everyone.
Thanks to everyone in the audience.
Thanks for coming and sticking around.
I've once seen that little film.
It's lovely to meet
Any good self-play picks? Thanks very much.
Yes. Are you going to go to
I've been videoing this whole thing.
What do you do?